Welcome back to Infidelity Tales Lab. We're incredibly grateful for your support. Before we begin today's tale, tell us, which city or country are you joining us from? We love connecting with our global audience. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1, Foundations. Vincent Reynolds wasn't born with a silver spoon. At 43, his calloused hands told the story of a man who had built everything from scratch. The construction company he'd founded 15 years ago had grown from a pickup truck and a toolbox into Reynolds Construction, employing over 50 people across the Midwest. The framed photo on his desk showed a younger Vincent with his arm around Melissa, both of them beaming in front of their first tiny office. Back then, she'd worked the phones while he hauled lumber and mixed concrete. They'd been broke but happy. The American dream in progress. The renovated farmhouse they now called home sat on 5 acres at the edge of Lake Constance. Vincent had rebuilt it himself, spending weekends and evenings for 2 years transforming the dilapidated structure into Melissa's dream home. Their daughter Aurora's laughter used to echo through the open rafters. Now, at 17, her doors stayed closed, her words clipped when addressing him. Vincent stared at the spreadsheets on his computer, the blue light reflecting off his square-jawed face. The company had just landed the Horizon Development contract, a $30 million project that would secure their financial future forever. It had been his obsession for months, the culmination of years of networking, preparation, and strategic expansion. His phone vibrated. A text from Melissa, "Don't forget my birthday dinner tomorrow. 7 p.m., the lakeside. Don't be late this time. No, love you." No excitement about his presence. Just a reminder, like he was an appliance that needed programming. "Boss, got a minute?" Nolan Byers, his project manager and oldest friend, stood at his office door. Tall and weathered from years on job sites. Nolan had been with Vincent since the beginning. "What's up?" Vincent closed the spreadsheet. "The wife's still planning that big surprise party for tomorrow." Vincent frowned. "What are you talking about?" Nolan's expression shifted. "Shit. She didn't tell you? Melissa's been planning this massive birthday bash for weeks. Rented out the overlook at Lakeside, invited half the town. I figured you were in on it." Something cold settled in Vincent's stomach. "No, she didn't mention anything except dinner." "Forget I said anything." Nolan backtracked hastily. "Maybe she wanted to surprise you both." But Vincent knew better. The party was for Melissa, her 41st birthday, and she hadn't wanted him involved in the planning. Later that evening, Vincent arrived home to find Melissa on the phone in the kitchen, her voice animated in a way it never was with him anymore. "That sounds perfect." "No, he has no idea." She caught sight of Vincent and startled. "I gotta go. See you tomorrow." She hung up quickly. "You're home early. The Horizon contracts are finalized." He set his briefcase down. "Who was that?" "Just Diane about my birthday dinner." Melissa tucked a strand of honey blonde hair behind her ear, a nervous habit she'd had since college. "Nothing exciting." Diane Murray, the same woman who'd been spending increasing time with Melissa over the past year. The same woman whose husband, Dr. Patrick Murray, had suddenly become Melissa's tennis partner 3 mornings a week. Vincent nodded, saying nothing about the party he now knew existed. "Where's Aurora?" "Study group at Lily's house. She'll be home around 9. Melissa turned back to chopping vegetables, her shoulders tense. That night, Vincent lay awake beside his sleeping wife, their bodies separated by an invisible wall that had been growing for years. When had they become strangers? When had his wife started planning celebrations without him? He slipped out of bed and went to his home office, unlocking the bottom drawer of his desk where he kept the file. For 6 months, he'd been collecting evidence. Photos taken by a private investigator showing Melissa and Patrick Murray embracing in the parking lot of the Lakeview Motel, credit card statements showing purchases he'd never seen, phone records revealing hundreds of texts at odd hours. Vincent had built his company by being methodical, by anticipating problems before they arose. He'd applied the same principles to his disintegrating marriage. He just hadn't decided what to do with the information yet. Until tonight. Chapter 2. Revelations. The morning of Melissa's birthday dawned bright and clear. Vincent left early, kissing his still-sleeping wife on the forehead, a gesture that felt like muscle memory rather than affection. "We need to talk." Nolan said the moment Vincent entered his office. About? Nolan closed the door. Look, I wasn't going to say anything, but as your friend, he ran a hand through his thinning hair. Patrick Murray's been showing up at your house when you're not there. My sister lives down the block. She's seen his car. Vincent nodded slowly. I know. You know. Nolan looked taken aback. I've known for months. The question is, why are you just telling me now? The color drained from Nolan's face. The party tonight. Melissa asked me to help set up some displays, photo boards of your life together. He swallowed hard. But when I went to her office to pick up the photos yesterday, I saw messages on her computer from Murray. They're planning to tell you tonight, after the party. The cold feeling in Vincent's stomach hardened into something like ice. Tell me what exactly? That she wants a divorce. That she's been planning to leave for a while. Nolan couldn't meet his eyes. I'm sorry, Vince. I should have said something sooner. Vincent sat very still, processing. And Aurora? Does she know? Nolan hesitated. The messages mentioned something about her helping with a surprise at the party. I don't know what. A heaviness settled in Vincent's chest. His daughter. His only child. The girl who'd once idolized him, following him around job sites with a plastic hammer, insisting on helping Daddy build. Well, had she decided to take her mother's side? I appreciate the heads up. Vincent's voice was calm, controlled. I need you to do one more thing for me. Anything. Call Diana at the county records office. I need someone to meet me there at lunch. By noon, Vincent had signed the papers transferring ownership of his company to a holding trust he'd established months ago, just in case. By 2, he'd moved half their shared assets into accounts Melissa couldn't touch. By 4, he'd retrieved the thick folder of evidence from his safe and made 3 copies. At 6:30, he stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his tie. The face that looked back at him wasn't that of a victim. It was the face of a man who'd weathered storms before, who knew how to rebuild. Dad! Aurora stood in the doorway, already dressed for the party in a blue dress that made her look older than 17. Mom says we need to leave in 10 minutes. Vincent studied his daughter's face, searching for signs of the betrayal to come. Had motherhood poisoned her against him too? I'll be right there. The drive to Lakeside was silent. Melissa kept checking her phone, smiling at messages. Aurora stared out the window, fidgeting with the hem of her dress. When they arrived, the parking lot was full. Vincent recognized most of the vehicles, friends, neighbors, business associates. People who'd soon witness his public humiliation if Melissa had her way. Why don't you two go in first? Melissa suggested, voice strained with forced casualness. I forgot something in the car. Aurora nodded, looping her arm through Vincent's. Come on, Dad. As they walked toward the entrance, Vincent asked quietly, Is there something you want to tell me, Aurora? She hesitated, then squeezed his arm. I love you, Dad. No matter what happens. It was all the confirmation he needed. Chapter 3, Betrayal. Surprise. The shout went up as Vincent entered the banquet room. Dozens of familiar faces grinning at him, champagne glasses raised. The space was decorated lavishly. Photos of Melissa throughout the years adorning the walls, banners proclaiming, Happy Birthday, Melissa, hanging from the ceiling. Vincent smiled, playing along. He greeted friends and colleagues, accepted congratulations on the Horizon contract, complimented the decorations. All the while, his eyes tracked Melissa as she moved through the crowd, eventually finding her way to Patrick Murray's side. The doctor stood tall and distinguished in an expensive suit, his hand resting momentarily on the small of Melissa's back when he thought no one was looking. Diane Murray hovered nearby, her smile tight. Did she suspect? Or was she part of this elaborate deception? Speech time, someone called after dinner had been served. Aurora took the microphone, her young face solemn. We're all here to celebrate my amazing mom's birthday, she began, voice steady despite the slight tremor in her hands. But we also wanted to take this opportunity to recognize the special people in our lives and what they mean to us. Vincent watched as servers began distributing gift boxes to each guest. Inside each box is a custom t-shirt, Aurora continued. Mom and I designed them especially for each of you, with words that express what you mean to our family. The guests began opening their boxes, pulling out shirts with words like trusted friend, beloved family, cherished mentor. Laughter and appreciative murmurs filled the room. When Vincent's box was placed before him, Melissa's eyes were fixed on him, a strange mixture of anticipation and something like vindication in her expression. He opened it slowly, already knowing what he would find. The shirt was black, unlike the others. Across the chest, in stark white letters, were the words, "Biggest disappointment." The table fell silent. Then someone gasped. Heads turned. Vincent held up the shirt, nodding slowly as he examined it. His face betrayed nothing. "Vincent, it's just a joke," Melissa said quickly, but there was no humor in her voice, only a defensive edge. Vincent carefully folded the shirt and placed it back in a box. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out a thick stack of papers bound in a blue folder. Melissa's smile faltered. With deliberate calm, Vincent tore the folder in half, then in quarters. Papers spilled onto the table. Photographs, hotel receipts, phone records. He stood, dropping the torn remains onto his plate. "Happy birthday, Melissa," he said quietly. Then he walked out. Behind him, the room erupted in confused murmurs. He heard Aurora call Dad, and Melissa's panicked, "Vincent, wait." But he didn't stop. In the parking lot, his phone began to ring. He silenced it and drove home in the gathering darkness. An hour later, as he was packing his suitcase, the front door burst open. Melissa rushed in, mascara streaking her face. "What have you done?" she demanded, waving torn pieces of paper. "Do you know how humiliating that was?" Vincent continued packing. "About as humiliating as being called your biggest disappointment in front of our friends and family, I imagine. It was a joke. You were supposed to laugh it off." Her voice rose hysterically. "But those papers, those were our college degrees. Our marriage certificate. Aurora's birth certificate. Originals we can't replace." Vincent finally looked at her, his expression cold. "No, Melissa, those were copies. What I destroyed were copies of the evidence I've been gathering for months. The originals are safe, with my lawyer, with Nolan, and now, thanks to your little party, with most of our social circle." The color drained from her face. "Evidence? Of what?" "You know exactly what. You and Patrick. The affair. The planning. The plot to ambush me with divorce papers after publicly humiliating me." He zipped the suitcase. "Did you really think I wouldn't know? That I wouldn't prepare?" Melissa sank into a chair, the torn papers clutched in her hand. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." "No," Vincent agreed. "It wasn't. You spent 15 years enjoying the fruits of my labor, living in a house I built with my hands, spending the money I earned working 80-hour weeks. And your grand exit strategy was to mock me in public, then serve me with papers demanding half of everything." Her silence was admission enough. "Well, you'll be hearing from my lawyers tomorrow. I suggest you start packing." He picked up his suitcase. "And where is our daughter?" "Still at the party, helping with the aftermath of your little stunt." Melissa's jaw tightened. "Aurora had nothing to do with the shirt. That was my idea. She didn't even know until tonight. But she knew about the divorce plans. About Patrick. She's 17, Vincent. She deserves to know what's happening in her family. What she deserved was a mother who didn't use her as a pawn." He headed for the door. "Tell her I'll call her tomorrow." "Where are you going?" Melissa asked, suddenly looking frightened. Vincent paused at the doorway. "That's no longer your concern. But don't worry, I'm not done yet. Not by a long shot." As he drove away, his phone lit up with messages and missed calls. Aurora, Nolan, even Patrick Murray. He ignored them all. The motel room was sparse but clean. Vincent sat on the edge of the bed, finally allowing the full weight of the evening to settle over him. Years of marriage ended not with a whimper, but with deliberate cruelty. His daughter, caught in the middle. And now, the decision of what came next. Vincent had always been a builder, creating something from nothing. But he'd learned long ago that sometimes to build something new, you had to tear down what was broken beyond repair. He took out his phone and made a call. "It's time," he said when the line connected. "Activate the contingency plan." Chapter 4. Strategic Positioning. 3 days after the birthday party disaster, Vincent sat in attorney Lawrence Whitman's office, watching as the older man reviewed the documents spread across his mahogany desk. "You've been thorough," Whitman remarked, adjusting his rimless glasses. Most clients come to me after the fact. You've been preparing for months. I believe in contingency planning. Vincent's voice was even. What's the verdict? Whitman leaned back in his chair. With the prenuptial agreement, the evidence of infidelity, and the asset protection measures you've already taken, we're in a strong position. Ms. Reynolds' claim to half your business will be difficult to substantiate, especially since you founded it before the marriage and have maintained separate finances. And the house. Trickier. You built it during the marriage, on land purchased with joint funds. But your labor and expertise substantially increased its value. Whitman tapped his pen against the desk. We can argue sweat equity. Vincent nodded. The house was important, not because he wanted to live there, but because Melissa couldn't have it. Not after everything. What about Aurora? She's 17. Courts generally consider the wishes of children her age. Have you spoken with her? Vincent's jaw tightened. She's staying with her mother for now. We've texted, but she's distant. The truth was more painful. Aurora had sent a single message. I know what you're doing. Mom told me everything. Please stop. He hadn't replied, uncertain what everything entailed in Melissa's version of events. File the papers, Vincent decided. Full offensive strategy. After leaving Whitman's office, Vincent drove to Reynolds' construction headquarters. The familiar brick building with its blue metal roof had always felt like a second home. Now, it felt like a fortress, one of the few places untouched by Melissa's betrayal. Nolan was waiting in the conference room, along with Talia Vasquez, Vincent's operations manager. The wall-mounted screens displayed the Horizon development plans, the project that would either cement Reynolds Construction as a major player or become the company's albatross. How'd it go with Whitman? Nolan asked. As expected, Melissa's attorney delivered her counteroffer this morning. She wants the house, half the company, and full custody of Aurora. Vincent's tone was matter-of-fact, as though discussing a problematic concrete pour rather than the dissolution of his family. Talia winced. That's aggressive. It's posturing, Vincent replied. She knows she won't get it. But the timing isn't coincidental. The Horizon groundbreaking is in 2 weeks. She's hoping I'll settle quickly to avoid complications. Speaking of complications, Talia said, pulling up a document on her tablet. Dr. Murray's medical group is one of the primary investors in Horizon. If word gets out about the situation, it could jeopardize our contract. Vincent hadn't known this, a rare oversight in his usually comprehensive intelligence gathering. Find out everything about Murray's involvement. Financial stake, relationship with other investors, voting rights within the consortium. Already on it, Talia confirmed. Also, Melissa called the office 3 times yesterday, trying to get information about the company's financials. She told accounting she needed to update some paperwork for the family trust, which doesn't exist, Vincent noted. She's fishing. Make sure everyone knows not to provide any information without direct authorization from me. As the meeting concluded, Nolan hung back. There's something else you should know, he said once Talia had left. I heard from Diane Murray yesterday. She wants to meet. Vincent raised an eyebrow. Patrick's wife? What for? Didn't say. Just that it was important and she didn't want her husband to know. Interesting. Vincent had always liked Diane, a straightforward, no-nonsense woman who'd built a successful interior design business while raising 2 children. Unlike Melissa, who'd gradually abandoned her career ambitions after Aurora was born, content to live off Vincent's increasing success. Set it up, Vincent decided. Somewhere private. Later that day, Vincent received a text from an unfamiliar number. We need to talk. About Aurora. Patrick Murray. Vincent stared at the message, a cold fury building inside him. The audacity of this man, to pursue a married woman, conspire to humiliate her husband, and now act concerned about the daughter whose home he'd helped destroy. Nothing to discuss, Vincent replied, then blocked the number. His phone rang immediately. Aurora. He answered on the first ring. Dad. Her voice sounded strained, adult in a way that pierced his heart. Why are you doing this? Why can't you just let Mom be happy? Vincent closed his eyes. Is that what she told you? That I'm preventing her happiness. You're trying to take everything from her. The house, her savings, even try to limit her time with me. Aurora's voice cracked. Dr. Murray says you're acting out of vindictiveness, not reason. Dr. Murray. Vincent's tone hardened. The man who's been sleeping with your mother for over a year while pretending to be my friend. That's who you're taking advice from now. Silence stretched between them. Aurora, I have never lied to you, and I won't start now. Your mother and Dr. Murray planned to blindside me with divorce papers after publicly humiliating me. They've been plotting this for months. Everything I'm doing is to protect what I've built, including hurting Mom. Aurora challenged, including using me as leverage. I have never used you as leverage. I want joint custody because you're my daughter and I love you. Vincent fought to keep his voice steady. Ask yourself who really put you in the middle of this. Who designed a custom shirt calling me a disappointment? Who involved you in a public spectacle meant to diminish me? Another lengthy silence. I need time to think, Aurora finally said. About everything. Take all the time you need. But remember, there are two sides to every story. And sometimes, the person who plays the victim is actually the perpetrator. After hanging up, Vincent sat motionless, staring at nothing. Children were supposed to be off-limits in warfare. But Melissa had breached that protocol first, using Aurora as both shield and weapon. His phone chimed with a meeting notification. Diane Murray at a cafe across town in 30 minutes. Time to add another piece to the chessboard. Chapter 5, Counterattack. The cafe was tucked away on a side street, small, dimly lit, and perfect for confidential conversations. Vincent arrived early, selecting a corner table with a view of both the entrance and the emergency exit. Diane Murray entered precisely on time, her tall figure and silver-streaked dark hair drawing attention even in the subdued lighting. She moved with purpose, scanning the room until she spotted Vincent. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, sliding into the seat across from him. No pleasantries, no feigned sympathy. Vincent appreciated the directness. Nolan said it was important. Diane nodded, her expression grave. "I know about Patrick and Melissa. I've known for months." Vincent studied her face, looking for signs of the anger and hurt he'd felt. But Diane's features remained composed, almost clinical in their detachment. "I'm sorry," he offered, unsure what else to say. "Don't be. Our marriage has been effectively over for years." She waved away a hovering waiter. "What concerns me is what they're planning now." Vincent leaned forward slightly. "I'm listening. Patrick transferred most of our joint assets 6 weeks ago. Investment accounts, property holdings, even our children's college funds. When I confronted him, he claimed it was for tax purposes." Her mouth twisted in a humorless smile. "I'm a business owner, Vincent. I know a liquidation strategy when I see one." "He's preparing to leave you," Vincent concluded. "For Melissa, yes, but there's more. Patrick's medical group isn't just an investor in Horizon Development. They're using it as a vehicle for something bigger." She reached in her bag and slid a folder across the table. The Murray Medical Center, a private hospital complex with Patrick as chief administrator. The centerpiece of the Horizon project. Vincent opened the folder, scanning architectural renderings of a gleaming medical facility. This wasn't in any of the plans we received, because it wasn't finalized until recently. Patrick fast-tracked it after. She hesitated. After they decided to end our marriages, Vincent finished for her. Diane nodded. "I believe that's when Melissa became more than just an affair. The Murray Center needs someone to handle community relations, donor development, event planning. Skills Melissa has from her charity work. They're planning their future, professional and personal." Vincent absorbed this information, fitting it into the puzzle he'd been assembling. "Why tell me this? What do you want?" Diane's green eyes hardened. "Justice. Patrick thinks he can discard 23 years of marriage, take my children's financial security, and sail off into a new life with his trophy girlfriend. I want him to fail, spectacularly and publicly. And you think I can help with that? Your company has the construction contract for Horizon. Without Reynolds Construction, the project stalls. Without the project, the Murray Center dies in utero." She smiled thinly. Mutually assured destruction. Vincent considered her words carefully. Sabotaging Horizon would indeed hurt Patrick and Melissa's plans, but it would also destroy everything he'd built. His employees would suffer. His professional reputation would be irreparably damaged. I can't deliberately tank a $30 million project, he said finally. Too many innocent people would be collateral damage. Disappointment flashed across Diane's face. Then what's your plan? Roll over and let them win. I never said that. Vincent closed the folder. There are more surgical approaches than scorched earth. I just need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. Diane studied him, then nodded slowly. What do you need from me? Information. Access to Patrick's correspondence with Horizon executives. Details about the Murray Center's financing. And he hesitated. I need to know about Aurora. Has she spent time with Patrick? Has he tried to replace me? Something like sympathy crossed Diane's features. Patrick has been cultivating a relationship with her for months. Weekend sailing trips with Melissa. College counseling. He's got connections at Johns Hopkins, where Aurora wants to study medicine. He's positioning himself as her mentor. The revelation hit Vincent like a physical blow. His daughter's increasing distance, her sudden interest in medicine when she'd always talked about engineering, her withdrawal from their Sunday morning hiking tradition. It all made sense now. One more thing, Diane added. Patrick's planning to propose to Melissa once both divorces are finalized. He's already bought the ring, 2 carats, emerald cut. Cost him $40,000. Her smile was razor sharp. Our 20th anniversary was last month. I got a Hallmark card. After Diane left, Vincent remained at the table, turning over possibilities in his mind. The Murray Center changed everything. This wasn't just about Melissa leaving him for another man. This was about his business, his legacy, and most importantly, his daughter. His phone chimed with a text from Nolan. Murray called the office again. Wants to discuss modifications to the Horizon contract. What should I tell him? Vincent's response was immediate. Schedule a meeting. Conference room. Tomorrow morning. Tell him I'll be there. It was time to face his wife's lover. Not as a betrayed husband, but as a businessman with leverage. Chapter 6. Escalation. The Reynolds Construction conference room felt unusually tense as Vincent reviewed documents with Talia and Nolan. Patrick Murray was due to arrive in 15 minutes. We've identified 3 significant issues with the Murray Center edition, Talia explained, highlighting sections of the blueprint on her tablet. First, the proposed location encroaches on wetlands protected under state regulations. Second, the height exceeds zoning restrictions for that district. And third, the medical waste disposal plan doesn't meet current EPA guidelines. All fixable problems, Nolan added, but they'll require permit variances, environmental impact studies, and possibly redesigns. We're looking at delays of 6 to 9 months minimum. Vincent nodded, satisfaction settling in his chest. And the funding structure? Complicated, Talia said. The medical group has leveraged most of their assets to secure financing. They need Horizon completed on schedule to begin generating revenue. Any significant delay could trigger penalty clauses in their loan agreements. In other words, Nolan summarized, they're financially vulnerable. How vulnerable? Vincent pressed. Talia hesitated. If Horizon stalls for more than 3 months, I'd estimate a 30% chance the whole Murray Center project collapses. If it stretches to 6 months, that jumps to 70%. The conference room door opened, and Patrick Murray strode in. Tall, silver-haired, with the easy confidence of someone accustomed to authority, he'd always impressed Vincent in the past. Now, all Vincent saw was a predator, one who targeted not just his wife, but his daughter. Vincent, Murray extended his hand. When Vincent didn't take it, he awkwardly converted the gesture into straightening his tie. Thanks for making time. Dr. Murray. Vincent's tone was coolly professional. I understand you have concerns about the Horizon project. Murray glanced at Nolan and Talia. Perhaps we could speak privately? My executive team stays. Vincent gestured to a chair. Please sit. Murray sat, his composure slightly shaken. Very well. I'll be direct. The medical group has approved an addition to the Horizon development, the Murray Medical Center. We need to integrate it into the existing construction schedule. Yes, I've seen the preliminary plans. Vincent slid a folder across the table. My team has identified several significant issues that will need to be addressed before we can proceed. Murray frowned as he scanned the document. These seem rather extensive. They are. Conservative estimate puts the delay at 6 to 9 months. The doctor's head snapped up. That's completely unacceptable. We need to break ground within 60 days to meet our financing commitments. Vincent shrugged. Then you should have included the medical center in the original plans, instead of trying to shoehorn it in at the last minute. This is obstruction, pure and simple. Murray's professional veneer cracked, revealing the anger beneath. You're purposely creating obstacles because of personal issues. Personal issues? Vincent repeated, his voice dangerously calm. What personal issues would those be, Dr. Murray? Please, enlighten my team. The conference room fell silent as Murray realized his misstep. Talia and Nolan exchanged glances, but remained professionally impassive. I simply meant that there seems to be a lack of cooperative spirit. Murray attempted to backtrack. On the contrary, Vincent countered, I'm being extraordinarily cooperative. I could have rejected the amendment outright, citing material changes to the original contract. Instead, I'm offering a path forward, albeit one that respects regulatory requirements and proper construction protocols. Murray's jaw tightened. The delay is still unacceptable. Then find another contractor. Vincent closed his folder. Of course, most reputable firms have similar lead times, especially for projects of this scale, and they need to familiarize themselves with the entire Horizon development before proceeding, which would add, what would you say, Nolan? 3 months minimum. At least, Nolan confirmed. Plus, the contract cancellation penalties would be substantial. Murray's face had turned an interesting shade of red. This is blackmail. No, Dr. Murray. This is business. Vincent stood. Now, if there's nothing else. Aurora called me last night, Murray said suddenly. She's very upset about how you're treating Melissa in the divorce proceedings. Trying to take the house, freezing joint accounts. It's affecting her mental health. The calculated mention of his daughter struck Vincent like a blow, but he maintained his composure. I appreciate your concern for my daughter's welfare, Doctor. It's touching how invested you've become in her life while sleeping with her mother. Murray flushed. That's uncalled for. Is it? Because from where I'm sitting, it seems like you've been grooming my daughter to accept you as her new father figure, while systematically undermining me. Vincent's voice remained level, but his eyes had turned to ice. Johns Hopkins tours? Sailing lessons? Funny how a busy surgeon suddenly has so much time for a teenage girl who just happens to be his mistress's daughter. You're twisting a perfectly innocent. Save it. Vincent cut him off. Here's what's going to happen. My team will prepare a comprehensive assessment of what needs to be addressed before the Murray Center can proceed. You'll receive it within 3 business days. What you do with that information is up to you. Murray stood, gathering his papers with shaking hands. This isn't over, Reynolds. No, Vincent agreed. It's just beginning. After Murray left, Nolan let out a low whistle. That was intense. He's desperate, Talia observed. The financing issue must be serious. It is. Vincent sat back down, the momentary satisfaction of confronting Murray already fading. But he's right about one thing. This isn't over. He'll try to go around us, possibly appeal directly to the Horizon Executive Board. Let him try, Nolan said. We have the primary contract. They can't cut us out without massive penalties. Vincent nodded, but his mind was already elsewhere. The mention of Aurora had shaken him more than he wanted to admit. Was Murray right? Was his determination to make Melissa pay hurting his daughter? His phone buzzed with a text. Aurora, can we talk? Just us. No mom, no lawyers. Please. A flicker of hope kindled in Vincent's chest. Name the time and place. He replied immediately. Aurora's response came quickly. Tomorrow. 4 p.m. The treehouse. The treehouse. The elaborate structure Vincent had built in their backyard when Aurora was 10, complete with windows, a small deck, and solar-powered lights. Their private retreat, where they'd read books together and had serious talks as she grew older. A place untouched by Melissa's influence. Perhaps not everything was lost after all. The next afternoon, Vincent arrived home, still technically his home, though he hadn't slept there in days, and made his way through the backyard to the massive oak that held the treehouse. He climbed the reinforced ladder, memories flooding back with each step. Aurora was already inside, sitting cross-legged on the wooden floor, looking younger than her 17 years. Her dark hair, so like his own, was pulled back in a simple ponytail, her face free of makeup. "Hey, Dad," she said softly as he ducked through the entrance. "Hey, sweetheart." Vincent settled across from her, the space smaller than he remembered. "Thanks for suggesting this place." Aurora glanced around at the faded posters and bookshelves. "It's been a while. I forgot how nice it is up here. We used to spend whole afternoons reading," Vincent recalled. "You in your Harry Potter books, me with my blueprints." A ghost of a smile touched her lips. "You built me a wand, oak with a copper core." "I did." The memory warmed him. "You said it helped you do homework magic." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the present temporarily suspended by shared remembrance. "Dad," Aurora finally said, her voice turning serious. "What's really going on? Mom says you're trying to punish her for falling in love with someone else. Dr. Murray says you're using your company to sabotage his medical center. Everyone's saying different things, and I don't know what to believe anymore." Vincent considered his words carefully. "The truth is complicated, Aurora. Your mother and Dr. Murray didn't just fall in love. They planned to blindside me with divorce papers after publicly humiliating me at that birthday party. The medical center? That was meant to be their fresh start together, professionally and personally." Aurora's eyes widened. The T-shirt was deliberate, not a joke. Vincent kept his tone gentle. "As for the Murray Center, I'm not sabotaging anything. There are legitimate regulatory issues that need to be addressed. But yes, I'm not going out of my way to help the man who's been sleeping with my wife while pretending to be my friend." Aurora looked down, processing. "And what about the house? Mom says you're trying to force us out. The house belongs to both of us. I built it, but we paid for the materials together. In a fair division, we'd sell it and split the proceeds." Vincent leaned forward. "But your mother wants everything. The house, half my company, primary custody of you. She's not compromising. She's scared," Aurora said quietly, "of starting over with nothing." "She wouldn't be starting with nothing. I've offered a fair settlement multiple times. She's rejected everyone." Aurora twisted the friendship bracelet on her wrist, a nervous habit she'd had since childhood. "And where do I fit in all this? Mom says you're trying to limit her time with me." "That's not true." Vincent reached for her hand, relieved when she didn't pull away. "I want joint custody, equal time. You're 17, Aurora. In less than a year, you'll be legally able to decide for yourself where you want to be. I would never try to separate you from your mother." Tears welled in Aurora's eyes. "Everything's falling apart. Our family, our home. Nothing's the same anymore." Vincent felt his throat tighten. "I know, and I'm so sorry you're caught in the middle of this. You deserve better from both of us." "What happens now?" she asked, wiping her eyes. "That depends on a lot of things. Legal proceedings, negotiations." Vincent hesitated, then decided on complete honesty. "And on what your mother and Dr. Murray decide to do next. This situation is volatile." Aurora looked up sharply. "What does that mean?" "It means people get desperate when they're backed into corners. Dr. Murray has a lot riding on that medical center. If it fails, he loses everything. His investment, his professional reputation, possibly even his medical group's financial stability." Understanding dawned in Aurora's eyes. "And you control whether it gets built or not." "I control the timeline," Vincent corrected. "And in development projects, time is money." Aurora was silent for a long moment, then said, "Dr. Murray asked me about your company yesterday, about how decisions get made, who has authority to sign off on things. I thought he was just making conversation, but now..." A cold feeling settled in Vincent's stomach. What exactly did he want to know? Mostly about Nolan. Whether he could approve changes without you. Whether he had signing authority. Aurora frowned. "He offered to help me with my college applications afterward. Said he could pull some strings at Johns Hopkins." Vincent's mind raced. Murray was looking for ways around him, possibly trying to exploit his relationship with Aurora to gain inside information. The man was more desperate and more calculating than he'd realized. "Aurora, I need you to be very careful around Dr. Murray. Don't share any information about me, the company, or our legal proceedings." Can you do that? She nodded, looking troubled. Are you worried he might do something bad? I'm worried he might try to use you to get what he wants, Vincent said carefully. Which wouldn't be fair to you. Aurora's expression hardened, a look so like his own that it startled him. I won't let him. Or Mom. I'm not a child anymore, Dad. I can see what's happening. Pride swelled in Vincent's chest. Despite everything, his daughter was showing the strength and clarity he'd always tried to instill in her. No, you're not a child, he agreed. You're an incredible young woman. And whatever happens with the divorce, the house, the business, nothing changes how much I love you. Aurora moved across the small space and hugged him fiercely. I love you too, Dad. As they descended from the treehouse, Vincent saw Melissa watching from the kitchen window. Her expression was unreadable from this distance, but her posture was rigid. The battle lines were clearly drawn. And now, with the knowledge that Murray was growing desperate enough to use Aurora, Vincent knew he needed to accelerate his plans. The demolition phase was nearing completion. It was time to begin rebuilding, but first there were still some structures that needed to come down. Chapter 7. Surgical Strikes. 2 weeks after his treehouse conversation with Aurora, Vincent sat in Lawrence Whitman's office, reviewing the latest divorce proceedings. The attorney looked pleased. Judge Hernandez denied Melissa's request for emergency spousal support, Whitman announced, tapping the court order. Her claim that you left her without financial resources didn't hold up once we presented evidence of the separate account you established for household expenses. What about the restraining order? Vincent asked. Dismissed. The judge found no credible evidence that you pose any threat to her. Whitman adjusted his glasses. However, the judge did recommend mediation before our next court date. Standard procedure, but worth considering. Vincent shook his head. No mediation. Melissa had her chance for a reasonable settlement. She chose war instead. Very well. Whitman made a note. On to more pressing matters. The Reynolds construction investigation concluded yesterday. The forensic accountants confirmed what I suspected: unauthorized access to our financial systems 3 weeks ago. Someone logged in using Nolan's credentials and downloaded confidential information about the Horizon project. And you believe it was Dr. Murray? Not directly. He's too careful for that. Vincent's expression hardened, but the IP address traced back to a coffee shop near his office. And the timing corresponds with a text Aurora showed me. Murray asking to meet her there to discuss college plans. Whitman looked troubled. You think he used your daughter to gain access? I think he took advantage of her trust to get close to someone with inside knowledge of our systems. Vincent's hands clenched. Aurora says she left her laptop unattended for a few minutes while Murray bought coffee. That would have been enough time for someone with prepared malware. This changes things, Whitman said thoughtfully. Corporate espionage, potential fraud. These are criminal matters, not just civil disputes. Exactly. Vincent leaned forward, which is why I've already taken the next step. That next step materialized 2 days later, when Vincent received a call from Detective Andrea Reyes of the Financial Crimes Division. Mr. Reynolds? We've reviewed the evidence your security team provided regarding the unauthorized system access. I'd like to meet to discuss how we proceed. The meeting took place at police headquarters, a concrete building on the edge of downtown. Detective Reyes was younger than Vincent expected, mid-30s, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. The case has merit, she confirmed after reviewing the technical details again. The intrusion was sophisticated but left traces. Our cybercrime specialist confirmed the malware signature matches known corporate espionage tools. And the connection to Patrick Murray? Vincent pressed. Circumstantial but compelling. The location, timing, and nature of the information targeted all support your theory. Reyes tapped her pen against her notepad. We'll need to interview your daughter. Vincent had anticipated this. She's willing to cooperate, but I want her treated as a potential victim, not an accomplice. She had no idea what Murray was doing. Understood. We'll handle it carefully. Reyes studied him. You should know, Mr. Reynolds. We've received a counter-complaint from Dr. Murray. Vincent raised an eyebrow. What kind of complaint? He alleges you're deliberately sabotaging the Horizon development project out of personal animus, amounting to tortious interference with business relationships. Reyes's expression remained neutral. He claims your actions constitute a pattern of harassment following his relationship with your wife. Vincent almost laughed. That's his defense. Reynolds is just angry I slept with his wife. Essentially, Reyes closed her notebook. For what it's worth, his complaint lacks the concrete evidence yours provides. But this will complicate matters. I expected as much. Vincent stood. When will you move forward with the investigation? We'll interview Dr. Murray within the week. Your daughter as well, with appropriate protections in place. Reyes handed him her card. In the meantime, maintain your distance from both Dr. Murray and your wife. Let the system work. Vincent nodded, but inside he knew the system was just one tool in his arsenal, and not necessarily the most effective one. That evening, he received an unexpected visitor at his temporary apartment. The doorbell rang just after 8, revealing Diane Murray on his doorstep. "May I come in?" she asked without preamble. "I have information you need to hear." Vincent stepped aside to let her enter. The apartment was sparsely furnished, a temporary way station, not a home. "Patrick's been suspended," Diane announced, declining Vincent's offer of a drink. The medical board received an anonymous complaint about ethical violations. Something about using his position to coerce patients into investing in his private ventures. Vincent kept his expression neutral. "I hadn't heard. Don't play innocent." Diane's mouth curved in a small smile. "We both know where that complaint originated. Actually, I had nothing to do with it." Vincent sat across from her. "Though I can't say I'm sorry to hear it." Diane studied him, then nodded. "Well, someone's making moves. And there's more. The primary lender for the Murray Center is reconsidering their commitment in light of the investigation. Patrick's frantic, calling in every favor he has. And Melissa? Still in the picture, but tensions are showing. She expected a smooth transition from your marriage to life with Patrick. Instead, she's caught in a legal battle with you while watching her future with him potentially crumble. Diane's expression turned contemplative. "She came to see me yesterday." That caught Vincent by surprise. Why would she do that? To apologize ostensibly. More likely to gauge how much I know about Patrick's financial manipulations. Diane shrugged. She seemed diminished. Not the confident homewrecker of a few months ago. Vincent absorbed this information, feeling no satisfaction at Melissa's distress. The anger that had fueled him initially had transformed into something colder, more focused. "What's your next move?" Diane asked. "Why do you assume I have one?" "Because I'm getting to know how you operate, Vincent Reynolds. You're methodical. 3 steps ahead." She leaned forward. "And unlike me, you're not content with just watching them fail. You want to direct the failure. Control the collapse." Vincent considered his response carefully. "Let's just say certain parties will soon discover that actions have consequences. Beyond that, I'd prefer not to elaborate." Diane nodded, accepting the non-answer. "Fair enough, but I'd like to be kept informed. We may not be partners in this, but we're certainly aligned." After she left, Vincent made a call to Nolan. "Is everything ready for tomorrow's board meeting?" "All set," Nolan confirmed. "The evidence is compelling. The board won't have much choice. And everyone understands the need for confidentiality? This can't leak beforehand." "Absolutely. We're treating it like a nuclear launch code." Vincent ended the call, satisfied. The Reynolds Construction Board meeting would be the first domino. Once it fell, the others would follow in rapid succession. The following morning, Vincent stood before the company's board of directors, 6 men and women who had helped guide Reynolds Construction through years of growth. The presentation he delivered was concise, devastating, and irrefutable. The unauthorized access obtained financial data, client information, and proprietary building techniques, he concluded, highlighting key sections of the security report. But more concerning was the subsequent attempt to use this information to approach Horizon Development executives with an offer to complete the project without Reynolds Construction's involvement. Board member Eleanor Vasquez frowned. "Are you saying someone tried to steal our client?" "Not someone. Patrick Murray." Vincent displayed emails recovered from the Horizon executive team. He approached them claiming our company was financially unstable and at risk of bankruptcy. He proposed an alternative arrangement where his medical group would take over as primary contractor and hire subcontractors directly. That's outrageous, Richard Tanner, the board chairman, exclaimed. What was Horizon's response? They declined and informed us immediately. Their legal team recognized it as a potential fraud attempt. Vincent closed the presentation, which brings us to the decision before the board today. The vote was unanimous. Reynolds Construction would immediately notify all relevant authorities of the attempted fraud, file a civil lawsuit against Patrick Murray and his medical group for corporate espionage and tortious interference, and implement a comprehensive communication strategy to protect the company's reputation. As Vincent expected, news of the lawsuit hit like a bombshell. By afternoon, local business publications had picked up the story. By evening, it had spread to regional news outlets, complete with statements from Horizon Development expressing full confidence in Reynolds Construction and serious concerns about the ethical conduct of certain parties involved in the Murray Center proposal. Vincent's phone rang constantly. Colleagues, friends, even Aurora, who texted, just saw the news. Are you okay? I'm fine, he responded. This was necessary. Her reply came quickly. Mom's freaking out. Dr. Murray came over. They've been arguing for hours. Vincent frowned. Are you safe? Do you want me to pick you up? I'm okay. Staying in my room. We'll call if it gets worse. Vincent paced his apartment, torn between respecting Aurora's independence and his instinct to protect her. He was about to call back when his phone rang. Melissa. After a moment's hesitation, he answered. Yes. What have you done? Her voice was tight with fury. Do you have any idea what you've started? I've defended my company against corporate espionage and fraud, Vincent replied calmly. Something any responsible CEO would do. This isn't about your company. This is about destroying Patrick because he fell in love with me. Vincent felt a flicker of the old anger, but pushed it down. Is that what he told you? That this is about jealousy? Not about him trying to steal confidential information from my company? Not about him using our daughter to gain access to that information? That's a lie, Melissa snapped, but uncertainty had crept into her voice. It's all documented, Melissa. The malware on Aurora's laptop, the unauthorized system access, the emails to Horizon executives. Vincent kept his tone even, but I'm more concerned about Aurora right now. She says you and Murray have been arguing for hours. Is she safe there? The question seemed to catch Melissa off guard. Of course she's safe. This is her home. Then I suggest you keep your domestic drama away from her. She's been through enough already. This isn't over, Vincent, Melissa warned before hanging up. Vincent set down his phone, knowing she was right, but not in the way she intended. The legal machinery he'd set in motion would continue grinding forward, regardless of Melissa's protests or Murray's counterattacks. What concerned him more was Aurora. The next day, he arranged to meet her for lunch at a cafe near her school. How are you holding up? He asked after they'd ordered. Aurora looked tired, the usual brightness in her eyes dimmed. It's weird at home. Mom keeps crying or yelling on the phone. Dr. Murray hasn't been back since that night. I'm sorry you're dealing with this, Vincent said sincerely. None of it is your fault. I know. Aurora stirred her soda absently. Dad, did Dr. Murray really use my laptop to steal from your company? Vincent nodded. The technical evidence is conclusive. When you left your computer to get napkins, he installed something. Aurora's expression hardened. He used me. It appears that way, Vincent confirmed gently. And now his medical center is probably done for, right? That's what Mom was screaming about on the phone. That you've ruined everything. Vincent chose his words carefully. Dr. Murray made a series of poor decisions. The consequences of those decisions are his responsibility, not mine. Aurora fell silent, processing. Finally, she asked, what happens next? Legally, the lawsuit proceeds. The police investigation continues. These things take time. Vincent reached across the table to cover her hand with his. But for us, for you and me, we start rebuilding. One step at a time. Aurora squeezed his hand. I'd like that. That afternoon, as Vincent returned to his office, he received the call he'd been anticipating from Lawrence Whitman. Melissa's attorney reached out, the lawyer reported. They want to discuss settlement terms for the divorce. Apparently, They've had a change of heart about fighting this out in court. Vincent allowed himself a small smile. How accommodating of them. Indeed, I suspect recent developments have altered their calculation of risk versus reward. Whitman's tone was dry. Shall I schedule a meeting? Yes, Vincent decided. It's time to end this particular chapter. The end game was approaching, faster than even Vincent had anticipated. The careful demolition of Patrick Murray's professional life had created precisely the pressure points needed to bring Melissa back to the negotiating table. Now, as he prepared for the final confrontation, Vincent found himself reflecting on what would come after. The victory he'd pursued so relentlessly was within reach. But what kind of foundation would remain for him to build upon? Chapter 8, Final Reckoning. The conference room at Whitman's law office projected an atmosphere of restrained elegance. Mahogany table, leather chairs, abstract art on cream-colored walls. Vincent sat at one end, Whitman beside him. Melissa and her attorney, Barbara Sinclair, occupied the opposite side. Melissa looked different, thinner, with shadows under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite conceal. The confident woman who had orchestrated his public humiliation was gone, replaced by someone who seemed both angry and afraid. Thank you all for agreeing to this meeting, Whitman began smoothly. I believe we have an opportunity to resolve matters amicably, without further court proceedings. Barbara Sinclair, a sharp-featured woman in her 50s, nodded briskly. My client is prepared to be reasonable, in the interest of bringing this painful situation to a close. Vincent remained silent, watching Melissa. She wouldn't meet his eyes. We've prepared a revised settlement proposal, Sinclair continued, sliding folders across the table. Mrs. Reynolds will relinquish any claim to Reynolds Construction or its assets. In exchange, Mr. Reynolds will transfer full ownership of the marital home to her, along with a cash settlement of $200,000. Whitman reviewed the document, then passed it to Vincent. The terms were a dramatic retreat from Melissa's initial demands. The house for her, no claim on his business, a token financial settlement that amounted to less than a year of the household expenses he'd been covering. And custody arrangements? Whitman inquired. Joint legal custody, Sinclair replied. Given Aurora's age, we propose she primarily reside with whichever parent she chooses, with reasonable access for the other. Vincent set down the document. May I speak directly to Melissa? Both attorneys exchanged glances, then nodded. Why the sudden change of heart? Vincent asked his wife. A month ago, you wanted half my company, the house, and primary custody. Now you're settling for significantly less. What happened? Melissa finally looked at him, her expression a mixture of resentment and resignation. You know exactly what happened. You systematically destroyed Patrick's career, his financial stability, and his reputation. You've left him with nothing but legal bills and a medical license that may be suspended. I defended my company against his illegal actions, Vincent corrected. Everything that's happened to Patrick Murray is a direct result of choices he made. He made a mistake, Melissa insisted. One mistake. A mistake. Vincent's tone hardened. Using our daughter to gain access to confidential information was a mistake. Attempting to defraud my business partners was a mistake. Planning to publicly humiliate me before serving divorce papers was a mistake. Sinclair intervened. Mr. Reynolds, this isn't productive. We're here to negotiate a settlement, not relitigate the past. On the contrary, Vincent replied, understanding how we got here is essential to ensuring we reach a fair resolution. He turned back to Melissa. Where's Patrick now? Something flickered in Melissa's eyes. Pain, perhaps, or embarrassment. I don't know. He left town 3 days ago. Said he needed to regroup and consider his options. He abandoned you, Vincent stated flatly. When things got difficult, when his plans collapsed, he cut his losses and ran. It's not like that, Melissa protested, but her voice lacked conviction. It's exactly like that. Vincent leaned forward. The man you chose over your family, over 15 years of marriage, discarded you the moment you became a liability rather than an asset. And now you expect me to provide the safety net he promised, but failed to deliver. Melissa's face flushed. What do you want from me, Vincent? To beg? To say you were right? Fine. You were right. Patrick used me. He used Aurora. He's gone, and you've won. Is that what you needed to hear? For a moment, the room fell silent. Vincent studied the woman he'd once loved, trying to reconcile the Melissa who had stood beside him building their first office with a bitter stranger across the table. What I want, he said finally, is closure. For all of us, but especially for Aurora. He turned to Whitman. The settlement terms are acceptable with one modification. The cash payment will be split, $100,000 to Melissa and $100,000 to a college trust for Aurora. Melissa looked surprised. You're agreeing? Just like that. Against my recommendation, Whitman noted. You're entitled to considerably more, given the circumstances. I'm aware. Vincent gathered his papers. But this isn't about money anymore. It's about moving forward. He stood. Have the revised agreement prepared by tomorrow. I'll sign then. As he reached the door, Melissa called after him. Vincent, wait. She approached, lowering her voice. What about the other matter? The lawsuit against Patrick. Vincent regarded her coolly. That's a separate issue. Reynolds Construction was the victim of corporate espionage and attempted fraud. The company will pursue all available legal remedies. Even though he's already lost everything, even though it will follow him forever. Melissa's voice took on a pleading quality. Haven't you punished him enough? That's not punishment, Melissa. That's accountability. Vincent's expression remained impassive. Something you might want to consider for yourself. He left her standing in the conference room, her face a study in conflicted emotions. Outside, Vincent sat in his car for several minutes before driving away. The confrontation had left him feeling hollow rather than triumphant. He'd achieved everything he'd set out to do, protected his company, secured a favorable divorce settlement, demonstrated the consequences of betrayal. Yet the victory tasted ashen. His phone chimed with a message from Aurora. How did the meeting go? We reached an agreement, he replied. Your mother keeps the house. We share custody. That's good, right? Vincent hesitated, then typed. It's necessary. How are you doing? Okay, I guess. Mom said. Dr. Murray left town. She's been crying a lot. A surge of protective anger rose in Vincent. I'm sorry you're dealing with that. Would you like to stay at my place for a few days? Maybe. Can I think about it? Of course. No pressure. Vincent set down his phone, sudden weariness washing over him. The past months had been consumed by his methodical campaign of retribution. Now that it was essentially complete, he found himself facing an uncomfortable question. What came next? The answer arrived unexpectedly the following evening, when Vincent returned to his apartment to find Aurora waiting in the hallway, a duffel bag at her feet. Hey, Dad. She stood as he approached. I know I should have called first, but you never need to call first, Vincent assured her, unlocking the door. What happened? Inside, Aurora dropped onto the sofa, suddenly looking much younger than 17. Mom's boyfriend called. From Arizona, I think. They were on the phone for hours, and then she told me she might be going to visit him for a while. Aurora's voice caught. She asked if I'd be okay staying with you temporarily while she figures things out. Vincent controlled his expression, pushing down the renewed anger at Melissa's selfishness. And how do you feel about that? Honestly, Aurora looked up, tears in her eyes. Relieved. The house doesn't feel like home anymore. It's just sad there. All the time. Vincent sat beside her, putting an arm around her shoulders. You can stay here as long as you want. And if your mother does leave town, we'll handle it together. Aurora leaned against him. I keep thinking about that stupid t-shirt. Biggest disappointment. But she's the one who's disappointed everyone. People make choices, Vincent said carefully. Sometimes bad ones. Sometimes a chain of bad choices that lead to places they never intended to go. Like Dr. Murray, Aurora observed. And Mom. Yes. Are you still going to pursue the lawsuit? Even with him gone? Vincent considered the question. The company has an obligation to protect itself. But there might be ways to resolve it that don't involve dragging things out for years. Aurora nodded, understanding. You mean you could settle? Potentially. With the right terms. They ordered pizza and watched a movie, a comedy Aurora had been wanting to see. For a few hours, the weight of recent events seemed to lift. Vincent found himself laughing for what felt like the first time in months. Later, After showing Aurora to the spare bedroom, Vincent received a text from Nolan. News on Murray. Arizona Medical Board received anonymous ethics complaint identical to ours. His fresh start is already compromised. Vincent frowned. He hadn't initiated any action in Arizona. This was someone else's move, possibly Diane Murray's. The realization that Patrick's downfall had taken on a momentum beyond his control was sobering. The following morning, Vincent made two decisions. First, he called Whitman and instructed him to finalize the divorce settlement with Melissa immediately. Second, he directed Reynolds Construction's legal team to draft settlement terms for the lawsuit against Patrick Murray, demanding full restitution for damages and legal costs, but offering to withhold criminal charges in exchange for a complete admission of wrongdoing. "You're being unexpectedly merciful," Whitman commented when Vincent explained his reasoning. "Not merciful. Strategic," Vincent corrected. "A protracted legal battle benefits no one. This way, we recover our costs, establish a clear record of what happened, and move forward. And it has nothing to do with Aurora asking you to consider settling." Whitman's tone was knowing. Vincent's silence was answer enough. That afternoon, Vincent received an unexpected visitor at his office. Diane Murray, elegant as always in a charcoal suit, her expression unreadable. "I heard you're settling," she said without preamble, taking a seat across from his desk. "Both the divorce and the lawsuit." "News travels fast," Vincent observed. "In certain circles." Diane studied him. "I thought we had an understanding." "We did. Patrick has faced consequences for his actions. His career is in jeopardy, his financial stability compromised, his reputation damaged. The objective has been achieved. Achieved but not completed," Diane corrected, a hint of steel in her voice. "He's attempting to rebuild in Arizona. With your wife, apparently." Vincent raised an eyebrow. "Ex-wife, soon enough. And their future together is no longer my concern." "It should be," Diane insisted. "They betrayed us both. They conspired together. They deserve to face the full measure of their actions." "They have," Vincent said firmly. "And now I'm choosing to focus on rebuilding my own life, not continuing to tear down theirs." Diane regarded him with something like disappointment. "I misjudged you. I thought you were like me, determined to see justice served completely." "What you want isn't justice, Diane. It's endless punishment." Vincent leaned forward. "I understand the impulse, believe me. But I have a daughter who needs stability, a company that requires attention, and a future that can't be built on the foundation of perpetual vengeance." Something flickered in Diane's eyes, a momentary vulnerability quickly masked. "And what about the rest of us? Those without children to consider or businesses to protect? What do we rebuild with?" For the first time, Vincent saw beyond Diane's polished exterior to the wounded woman beneath. "I can't answer that for you, but I know that at some point, the energy spent destroying others becomes energy taken from creating your own path forward." Diane stood, adjusting her jacket. "Very philosophical. I'll be interested to see if you maintain that perspective when they return. Happy, reconciled, unburdened by the consequences you've so generously limited." After she left, Vincent sat thoughtfully at his desk. Was Diane right? Was he being naive in choosing to end his campaign of retribution? Would he regret his restraint if Melissa and Patrick eventually thrived despite everything? The answer came to him gradually as he drove home that evening. It didn't matter. Whatever future Melissa and Patrick built, together or apart, it would never again affect his own journey. The severance was complete. Aurora was in the kitchen when he arrived, attempting to cook pasta. She looked up with a slightly chagrined expression. "I think I used too much garlic." Vincent laughed, hanging up his jacket. "No such thing as too much garlic." As they ate dinner, Aurora said hesitantly, "Mom called today. She's going to Arizona next week to sort things out with Patrick." Vincent nodded, unsurprised. "How do you feel about that?" "Honestly, it makes things clearer." Aurora pushed pasta around her plate. "She's choosing him, even after everything." "People can be complicated," Vincent said carefully. "Emotions don't always follow logical paths." "I know." Aurora looked up. "But choices have consequences, right? That's what you've always taught me." They do. Vincent held her gaze. Which is why my focus now is on making choices that help us move forward, not ones that keep us tied to the past. Aurora smiled. A small, genuine smile that reminded him of the little girl who'd once followed him around with a plastic hammer. I'd like that. Later that night, Vincent stood on the apartment balcony, looking out at the city lights. His phone buzzed with a text from Melissa, settlement papers signed. Notarized copies delivered to Whitman. I leave for Arizona Thursday. No apology. No acknowledgement of the pain she'd caused. Just administrative details and an exit plan. Vincent typed a simple reply. Understood. Call Aurora before you go. Then he blocked her number. Some chapters were meant to be closed definitively. The book of his life with Melissa had ended. The sequel, whatever form it took, would be written on blank pages, unshadowed by what came before. Vincent Reynolds had always been a builder. Now it was time to break ground on his most important project yet, reconstructing a life that had been systematically dismantled but never truly destroyed. Chapter 9. New Foundations. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, Vincent stood on the observation deck of the Reynolds construction headquarters, watching his crews pour the foundation for the Horizon Development's centerpiece building. The massive project was back on schedule after months of delays and redesigns. Looks good, Nolan commented, joining him at the railing. The structural modifications actually improved the overall design. Vincent nodded. The Murray Medical Center had been reimagined as a community wellness complex. Less grandiose, but more practical, serving a genuine need rather than one man's ego. How's the Mountain View site progressing? Vincent asked, referring to their newest project, a sustainable housing development on the city's north side. Ahead of schedule and under budget. Nolan grinned. The eco-friendly approach is attracting a lot of positive attention. 3 more developers have approached us about similar concepts. Vincent smiled, satisfaction warming his chest. The company wasn't just surviving, it was thriving, expanding in new directions he'd never anticipated during the dark days of the divorce battle. Any word from Murray? Nolan asked casually. Nothing direct. I heard his Arizona position fell through after the ethics complaint. Apparently, he's in New Mexico now, working at an urgent care clinic. Vincent shrugged. Not my concern anymore. The settlement of the lawsuit had been finalized 4 months earlier. Patrick Murray had signed a detailed admission of wrongdoing, paid restitution for damages and legal costs, and in return, Reynolds Construction had withdrawn its criminal complaint. The matter was closed, legally and increasingly emotionally. And Melissa? Nolan ventured. Aurora speaks to her weekly. She's still in Arizona, working at a resort spa. Vincent's voice remained neutral. She didn't follow Patrick to New Mexico. The revelation had surprised Vincent when Aurora shared it, though perhaps it shouldn't have. Melissa had always been pragmatic, choosing the path of greatest personal benefit. When Patrick's star fell completely, she disengaged, just as she had from her marriage when a more attractive option appeared. Aurora seems happier, Nolan observed. More like her old self. She is. Vincent couldn't help the pride in his voice. She got her acceptance letter from MIT yesterday. Full scholarship. Not Johns Hopkins. Nolan raised an eyebrow. She decided medicine wasn't for her after all. She wants to study structural engineering and sustainable design. Vincent smiled. Says she's always wanted to build things, like her dad. As they headed back inside, Vincent checked his phone. A text from Aurora. Pizza and movie night still on? Absolutely. My place at 7, he replied. The apartment they now shared in a downtown high-rise wasn't meant to be permanent. Vincent had purchased land outside the city and was designing a new house, smaller than the previous one, but with a workshop for the furniture-making hobby he'd rediscovered and a study for Aurora when she came home from college. New foundations, both literal and metaphorical. Mr. Reynolds? His assistant appeared at the office door. Ms. Murray is here to see you. Vincent frowned. Diane Murray? Yes, sir. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's important. Vincent hesitated, then nodded. Send her in. Diane looked different from their last encounter. More relaxed. Her previously perfect appearance slightly softened. She carried a portfolio case under one arm. Vincent, she offered a small smile. Thank you for seeing me. Of course. Please sit. He gestured to the chairs facing his desk. What can I do for you? Diane placed the portfolio on his desk. I wanted to show you something. My new venture. Vincent opened the case, finding architectural renderings of a sleek building with extensive gardens surrounding it. A design project? The Constance Women's Center, Diane explained. A resource facility for women rebuilding their lives after divorce, domestic violence, or other disruptions. Professional development, legal assistance, counseling, childcare. Vincent studied the plans with genuine interest. This is impressive. Your design, my concept. I've partnered with Astrid Hernandez's architectural firm for the technical aspects. Diane's expression turned serious. I'm here because I'm hoping Reynolds Construction would consider taking on the project. Vincent looked up, surprised. You want us to build this? Your company has the best reputation in the region. And she hesitated. I thought you might appreciate the symmetry. A place focused on reconstruction, built by someone who understands the importance of solid foundations. The request was unexpected, but not unwelcome. I need to review the full plans, discuss timeline and budget. Of course. Diane nodded. I'm not looking for charity or special treatment. This is a legitimate business proposal. Vincent studied her, noting the purpose in her eyes that had replaced the vengeful determination of months ago. What changed, Diane? Last time we spoke, you were disappointed in my decision to move on. She considered the question. I realized you were right. The energy spent destroying Patrick was energy taken from creating something new. A wry smile touched her lips. It just took me longer to get there. After Diane left, Vincent stood at his office window, watching the city below. The past year had been a systematic demolition and reconstruction of his life. Painful, exhausting, but ultimately necessary. The structure that remained was different for what it stood before, but in many ways stronger. More authentic. Built with hard-earned wisdom. His phone rang. Aurora. Dad? Can we add Diane to pizza night? She just texted me about the Women's Center project and said she talked to you. Vincent smiled. The unexpected friendship between Aurora and Diane had developed gradually over recent months. Two people connected by similar wounds finding healing in shared understanding. Sure, he agreed. The more the merrier. That evening, as Aurora and Diane discussed college plans and design concepts over pizza, Vincent felt something he hadn't expected to find again so soon, contentment. Not the complacent happiness of his early marriage, but something more grounded in reality, in the knowledge that life's foundations could crack and still be rebuilt stronger. His phone buzzed with a text. Melissa, need to discuss Aurora's graduation. Can we talk? Vincent considered the message. 6 months ago, you would have ignored it, still too raw from betrayal. But time and distance had dulled those edges. Text me what you need to discuss. If necessary, we can arrange a call, he replied. No anger, no eagerness to reconcile. Just practical communication about their shared responsibility to Aurora. It was enough. Dad, Aurora's voice pulled him back to the present. Diane asked if you'd consider adding renewable energy features to the Women's Center design. Vincent set down his phone, turning his full attention to the future taking shape before him. Actually, I've been developing some concepts for solar integration that might work perfectly. As the evening continued, Vincent reflected on the journey from that devastating birthday party to the present moment. The papers he'd torn that night had been symbolic. The destruction of one chapter making way for the next. The divorce, the lawsuit, the corporate battles, all part of a necessary demolition phase. Now, the reconstruction was well underway. Not a restoration of what was lost, but the creation of something entirely new. Something built to last. Vincent Reynolds had always been a builder at heart. The tools and materials might change, but the fundamental skill remained the same, creating solid foundations that could withstand whatever storms might come. The paper trail of his past had ended. The blueprints of his future were just beginning to unfold. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. and I'll see you there.